Hi, my name is Krishma. This is a channel that I've been thinking about starting and talking about starting for a long time, but I've been putting it off for months because I hate the sound of my voice, but I realized I gotta shoot my shot, so here I am. If you're family and friends and I forced you to come here, hi, thank you so much. And if you're a stranger here, oh my god, like I'm shocked that someone who doesn't know me would want to take the time out of their day and listen to what I have to say. So hi, welcome, wow. I wanted to start by talking about who I am and why climate change and environmental issues, why they matter to me. I can be a very nervous and pessimistic person a lot of the time. I worry about the future a lot. I can get really paranoid. And then for that reason, I guess climate change fits the profile of my worst enemy. I first learned about climate change when I was 7 years old, and my parents bought me an encyclopedia for my birthday. Yes, that's very nerdy, but you know, it is what it is. This is what it looks like, the DK Visual Encyclopedia of Science. Very legit, and I read every page, not kidding. Thick book. And there was essentially 2 pages in here that I was very fascinated by. The first very interesting page to me was this page on animal reproduction. Shows a great, picture of a frog fertilizing its eggs. Anyway, the second most interesting page for me was the one on the greenhouse effect. And it kind of explained how the greenhouse effect is when we burn fossil fuels, although yes, there's a lot of other ways to get carbon dioxide into the atmosphere and other greenhouse gases like methane, but essentially how when we burn fossil fuels we release these greenhouse gases into the atmosphere and they cause global warming because they make it harder for heat to escape, and thus it can cause the melting of the ice caps. And that was as basic as it got back then. And what's also funny about this book is that it only mentions oil, coal, and gas as forms of electricity, and renewables aren't even mentioned in this book, which is really interesting because it was written in the cute little excerpt from my dad says 2004. Wait a second. First published in Great Britain in 2000. So this book was written in 2000, and it doesn't mention renewables at all, which is interesting to me because renewables have been around for longer than that. I guess they weren't much of a talking point back 19 years ago. God, I'm old. My irrational, kind of anxious brain interpreted that into my impending death. This is when I was 6. And then when I was 14, back in 2012, and the Mayan calendar or Nostradamus or whatever had predicted that the world was gonna end on December 21st, I'd also seen the movie 2012 and it freaked me out. I was convinced that we were all about to die. I was one of those crazies. I believed it the entire time, and believe it or not, I made my family sit in a room, hold hands, and we lit a candle, and I cried the entire time. Another reason why I've always cared for the environment and everything that lives in it is because I'm kind of amazed by it. When I was 7, I was lucky enough to visit Tanzania with my family, and I saw so many amazing things. And I was just amazed by it all, that when I learned that a lot of those things were endangered, I was deeply, deeply upset because I never wanted any of those things to ever go away. I used to put up Save the Leatherback Turtle posters around in my own house, and my mom would have to run around and take them down before guests would come over. I quickly realized though that not many other people were into this stuff, or maybe I hadn't met the kind of people that were, and so I kind of stopped talking about it. I stopped talking about it for a long time, until about my 2nd or 3rd year of university, where I was lucky enough to meet people that did care, and I realized, I'm not the only one who stresses out about this stuff. Around the same time, in the past few months I guess, Greta's platform and her movement really brought climate change to the center stage of, I guess, global conversation. And I realized it's high time I talk about it because I sure as hell think about it a lot, and that I should use my platform, no matter how small it may be, to say my spiel and make whatever difference I can make. What really frustrates me about climate change is that we have a very all or nothing way of viewing an eco-friendly lifestyle. It's almost as if your efforts don't mean anything if you're not doing it perfectly. For example, I tried going vegetarian a while ago, cold turkey. And it was really hard. Side note, for those of you that don't know, I'm sure a lot of people do already know, but eating meat and animal-related items has a huge impact on the environment. Not only is it cruel per se, but it also has a huge impact by way of carbon emissions. I learned that eating 4 pounds of beef, which is what the average North American family consumes, is the equivalent of flying from New York to London and back. I don't eat beef, but that gets me every time. I actually heard that in a really great podcast that I would recommend to everyone listening, that was recommended to me by my friend Riley, Outrage and Optimism. Anyway, back to the point, I quit eating meat for a while. It was really hard for me since I have been someone who eats chicken, fish, occasionally pork and turkey and those kinds of things. And I could do it for a couple months and then my lifestyle changed. I tried it in the summer and then I went back to school and school got really busy. And so I kind of relapsed back into eating meat. Do I eat meat now? Yes, but I only eat meat when I go out to restaurants and I cook no meat at home. Whereas before I experimented with being vegetarian, I would cook meat at home. I no longer buy meat at the grocery store, and this kind of experiment in vegetarianism, it kind of changed my eating habits for life. And though I do eat meat occasionally when I go out to restaurants, I've probably cut my meat consumption down to a quarter of what it was before. What was interesting though was how people reacted to that.
Oh, you're not a vegetarian anymore? Oh, that's too bad. You preach climate change, but you're not even vegetarian? Don't you think that's kind of messed up?
I was kind of shocked because it's not like I'm telling people that I barely eat meat anymore, because that's not really the kind of thing you say to people. That's when I realized that as a society, we don't really celebrate people's efforts to be sustainable unless they do it perfectly. For example, if someone's goal was to lose 20 pounds and they came up to you and they said, "Oh my gosh, guess what? I lost 10 pounds. Like, I'm on my way." I would celebrate that. You would celebrate that. Everyone would celebrate that because they deserved it and they're taking steps towards their goal. But for some reason, if someone were to say, you know, I'm concerned about the environment and I've cut my fast fashion consumption in half, it wouldn't be as impressive unless you've gone from 0 to 100 with your capsule wardrobe, you thrift everything you wear, and you scowl at anyone wearing Forever 21. I was thinking about this when people started criticizing Greta. Unless you've been living under a rock lately, here's a primer on Greta. Greta is a Swedish climate activist born in 2003. Her mom is an opera singer and her dad is an actor, and she started her efforts against climate change right at home by forcing eco-friendly habits upon her family. Now that makes me laugh, and when my mom sees this, she's gonna laugh because I do that. I force eco-friendly habits upon my family. Just recently, she hosted a Diwali party at her house, and I was staring daggers at her. I was giving her major side eye for serving a plastic cutlery to the guests, and I passive-aggressively removed it from the table, put it back in the drawer, and replaced it with her silverware. And I went around the party picking up every dirty fork I could find and putting it in the dishwasher. If that's not the most passive-aggressive thing you've ever heard, I'm sorry, Mom. Anyway, more about Greta. So she started her Fridays for the Future movement, where she's encouraging kids her age to skip school on Fridays to protest government and business, lack of action against the climate crisis. How do I feel about kids having to skip school for this? I don't feel great about it, and I understand why parents would be upset about it, but I also understand why she's doing it. Sometimes you have to make these really bold statements. This is kind of an extreme example, but it reminds me of Emily Davison. I learned about her in year 7, year 8. She was a suffragette, which means she was campaigning for women and their right to vote in England. And she, to make a statement, jumped in front of the king's horse at Epsom and sadly died of her injuries days later. But that kind of statement she made had huge ripple effects across the community about, how badly women needed the right to vote. I'm not saying that anyone should put their lives in danger for this cause, but yeah, when push comes to shove, you might have to do something crazier or something really bold. Otherwise, people won't listen. Back to Greta. Greta now travels the world speaking at conferences and putting politicians and business leaders in their place, spreading her message about how we need to be doing more to combat the climate crisis. The most recent and famous Greta speech, the one where she's like, "How dare you?" You've probably heard it, was made at the UN Climate Action Summit this year. She kind of strips climate change of all the sugarcoating and she tells it like it is. So if you haven't seen it, I really recommend that you go watch it. She's been getting a lot of hate for that speech though. She's getting criticism for kind of blaming, naming, and shaming, and people are saying, you know, that's not constructive. She's being criticized for being too direct. And if you take a look at the types of prominent figures that are criticizing her, like Putin, Trump, Jeremy Clarkson from Top Gear, anyway, you see a pattern. They're mainly angry that she's blaming the boomers for causing the crisis and that she's being really blunt about it. I mean, what do I think about the baby boomers causing the crisis? It's true, the baby boomers and their respective governments did ignore the issue, which causes it to be as bad and as urgent as it is today. But I don't agree that climate change is only the baby boomers' fault. I think all of us, all generations, show levels of ignorance and indifference towards the crisis, and where we're at today and the steps that we're not taking to solve it, that's not just the baby boomers' fault. And yes, for the millennials and Gen Zers that are watching, the earth and its climate has been in deep shit since the day we were born. But I think some people heard that message wrong. If you ask me, Greta's anger is not directed at mom, dad, or grandpa. It's directed at politicians and business leaders that have known the truth for a long time and decided to do nothing about it. And she's right to be angry. Being polite didn't accomplish much in history. Being polite didn't get women the vote. I know I'm going back to that example, but it didn't. So I support her being blunt and direct and criticizing the hell out of people that kind of deserve it. And then there's the people that kind of pick on her flaws. People that are saying she's too young for this shit. They're criticizing her age, her autism. And there's even people who criticize her for taking that boat, that solar-powered yacht that she took across the Atlantic to get to the UN Climate Action Summit because her crew members had to fly back. Like, can these people sit down? The world that she was born into, the world that was created by generations and their governments before us, makes it really hard to be perfect. But you know what? At least she's out here trying. And I think this is kind of what I want my channel to be about. I preach climate change, and yet I'm not perfect. I'm a million miles away from living that perfect sustainable life where I feel no guilt. But I'm gonna try. I wanna take that first step. And yes, I am going to screw up. I am going to buy a plastic water bottle because I forgot to bring mine. Or I'm gonna drive to the grocery store that's 2 blocks away because I'm just too freaking tired. But I'm gonna be conscious and intentional with my actions, and I'm gonna try. If you're out there and you're trying, I wanna use this channel to celebrate you and your efforts instead of highlighting the times that you messed up. Same goes for me. I guess that was the end of my spiel and the end of my first video. I really hope this channel can be a place where we can talk about the climate crisis without it being such a taboo topic that everyone's really scared of. And I also want to make living sustainably seem less daunting. And if I can convince just a few people to give it a shot, I'm going to be really happy. And please, I want you to call me out if I'm doing something wrong or if there's something I'm not aware of, because I'm here to learn too. I don't really know how to sign off yet. I know a lot of YouTubers have a classic sign off. Goodbye. Have a great day, I guess. If you have more time, you can watch this less heavy video on how to make composting so easy that you'll do it in your sleep. I've got it right here. This is the first time I'm doing this, so in this general area. Thank you for watching, everyone. I can't wait to start this journey. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.